Welcome to this brief introduction to sampling. Now, we've talked a bit about how to use vectors and logical tests in order to subset data. And kind of rounding out this look at how to examine just parts of a data set or vector, we're going to talk a little bit about sampling. So here we're just going to focus on two different kinds of sampling. So one is going to be grabbing values from a known distribution. So I'm going to talk briefly about how to sample values from the normal and the uniform distribution. And then also we're going to talk a bit about how to sample random values from a vector. Now, sampling is ultimately going to be much more important later when we talk about kind of simulating data. But this video is going to provide you some of the building blocks. So first, let's talk about drawing samples from known distributions. So first, let's say that we're interested in drawing a sample of, say, 50 values from a normal distribution. The function we're going to want is called rnorm. And then the first value we're going to specify is the number of observations we'd like. So I'm saying I'd like 50. And then we can specify the mean and the standard deviation that we would like to sample from. So let's say instead that we're interested in creating kind of simulated data on, say, heights. And let's say that we're interested in measuring people in inches, and so let's say the mean height that we're going to look at is going to be 60 inches, and we're going to give people a standard deviation height of, say, 2 inches. Now this rnorm, if we just go ahead and execute it, will spit back a vector of a bunch of heights. And if we want to save that, again, we can call it just vec or something like that. So now, the reason that this is kind of interesting is we can do various things like plotting it. So we could say plot density vec in order to kind of look at the distribution here. And it looks a little bit woggly just because our sample size is still a bit small at only 50 values. But we could ask other things like the mean of this vector, and we see that it's got a mean of about 59.7, etc., etc. We can also sample from other distributions. So let's say that instead we wanted to grab from a uniform distribution. Again, we're going to specify the number of observations we'd like to draw first. So let's say this time I want to draw 20. And then for the uniform distribution, we need to give a minimum value and a maximum value. So let's say that we want to draw 20 numbers between 0 and 100. Then we just use this runif command, and again we get this vector back. And then similarly we could say plot it using the same command here. I'm just going to save this vector as vec2, and then we could look at it using this plot density command. Now I should mention as well that if you plot any density, you're gonna get this kind of tail here on either side just from the way that R ends up assessing these. But if we increased our sample size to something much larger, then if we do this, it'll look a lot more uniform here. But it's just kind of an aside. So the first bits up here have to do with sampling from known distributions, and the second useful thing to be able to do is to sample from vectors. So here, the function that you're going to use is called sample, and it's just going to take a few commands here. So the first thing is you want to specify the vector you'd like to sample from. So for example, if I specify this 1 to 10 here, remember that using a colon just allows me to create a vector from the first value to the second. So if I say sample from the vector 1 to 10, and then I ask for the number of samples I'd like to draw, then here this will allow me to draw 4 values from this vector. So if I wanted instead, say 5 values, I could just specify it that way. And if I want to increase the vector that I want to sample from, I can just do that by adjusting this vector right here. Similarly, I can specify a different vector that I'd like to sample from. So let's say I just specify the values 1, 3, 5, and 7, and I say, okay, give me 2 of those values. Then this will just sample from this vector that I've created. So returning to our objectives here, there are kind of 2 really useful ways of sampling. So either from some distribution that is kind of built into R, like the normal or the uniform distribution, and there are a bunch more to choose from, but those are awfully common. And then the second strategy is going to be sampling from vectors. And I said that that's going to be especially useful when we get into simulating data in just a little bit, but these are kind of the bare bones strategies for how to do this.